All right, Sarah, I think we're live on Facebook. So start with you, right, Sarah?
Sounds good. Welcome everybody. My name is Sarah Letton. I'm representing the Tahoe Climate Change Action Network today. I want to thank all the panelists for being with us today on this Green Jobs webinar for Tahoe. I just want to say real quick that this is one in a series of 7 webinars that the Tahoe Climate Change Action Network is putting on this week. I'm going to go ahead and put a link to our website in the chat where you can see how to register for the remaining webinars. So after today's Green Jobs talk, Sue's going to be talking about climate and voting tomorrow, and I'll be hosting a buffet of volunteer opportunities for climate change on Friday, and we're tying into the global climate action events on Saturday. So I'm going to welcome you all to that. Before I invite John to get started, I'm just going to say I'm going to be happy to manage the tech in the chat room for our attendees. You're welcome to add questions in the Q&A, and I'll take care of tech things in the chat box. And if you have a question, I'll be happy to verbalize it to the panel here. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and get started. John, thank you and welcome to everybody.
All right, thank you, Sarah. And yay, Sarah Letton, who put this entire week together, and it's been a great educational effort. So we're grateful for you, Sarah, and I'm grateful for all of our all-star panelists for joining us today. I'm John Friedrich. I founded the Tahoe Green Jobs Initiative this year. It's a project of Tahoe Prosperity Center. The idea is to create opportunities for people to get work in our growing green economy, to respond to the climate crisis by being part of the renewable energy and energy efficiency solution, to adapt to climate change by creating more healthy forests, which in turn can help provide wood to meet our housing crisis through sustainable home building and having people get trained in that type of work. And also, as we're creating a sustainable recreation economy to put people to work on things like building trails. We're going to talk about all those things today. So to get right to it, I'm just going to have folks go around. I'll just call out your name, just do a quick intro, and then we'll dive right into the topic. So I'm going to start with you, Danny. Introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Danny, and I run a general contracting business in town with a couple partners, and we try to specialize when we can in sustainable practices. It used to be known as kind of the green building movement, but I think I like to coin it more or describe it as more sustainable. And that would be like anywhere down to the glues that we use, or the materials that are sourced, how the building is oriented, how well insulated it is. So that's on new build. And then on remodels, same thing. Anything you could do to kind of make a building more efficient or green, we try to do that depending on the project and the clients and the budget. And then I think the main angle that John has brought us into for his program is trying to provide the management to build ADUs in whatever form there's various variations on that theme, but we would be trying to add units, affordable units to the community. So I think I think that's mainly what I would contribute.
Yeah, good. I look forward to diving into that discussion. Thank you, Danny. ADUs are accessory dwelling units for those who are befuddled by acronyms, also known as cottage or granny units. We'll be talking more about that.
Thanks for
Kim, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Kim Carr with Carr Consulting, and I work as a consultant to the Lake Tahoe Community College as well as the Lake Tahoe Unified School District. And a big part of that has been helping them build out programs. So a lot of it's driven by the students, which I think is the most exciting part. Our student our high school students just passed a climate resolution, basically requesting that every student graduates climate literate by 2025. So in the course of that, I'm working to help work with existing programs to integrate a green component. That's one part of the job. So for example, there is a construction vocational path at the high school. We're looking at adding a green certificate so that student would graduate from high school and could go work for Danny and would already have an idea of what makes products energy efficient, what's available out there, how do you design with sun aspect for passive solar, how do you install solar panels, etc. With the community college, I just raised quite a bit of money to help them start a forestry and wildfire prevention program. And directing the project, and that will start up in about a year. So we'll have our own educated workforce here in a high fire risk area.
Great, thank you, Kim. Look forward to hearing more about that. Let's see, eeny, meeny, miny, moe. Mark.
All right, well, maybe this is good afternoon, everyone. John, thank you for the invite to be part of your panel here. It's exciting to see things going on in Tahoe that need to happen in a big way, need to happen everywhere. Myself, I'm the founder of the American Institute of Building Science. We were previously the Distinctly Green Energy. We've been training ResNet and BPI certifications for energy efficiency programs, weatherization programs across the country for the last 20 years. We've done some time teaching over at Western Nevada College over the years for other construction programs for U.S. Department of Education. Currently, we're going through a major transition. I've brought on some partners, all retired military command sergeant majors, all teach at Purdue University. They are now our national team for recruiting, and they are in a big mission to train a lot of people, I guess. So I've laid that in their lap. We are a training company. We offer training for building science, understanding the materials we use, like Danny was talking. It's very important to understand what's going into a home. It's very important to understand the air sealing of the home. It's very important to understand a lot of things in the science of a home that most people don't understand. That's where we capitalize to work as a consultant for all of our partners. We look at opportunities like this as a way to not only educate with the latest building science, not talk, the latest building science with regards to homes. And that focuses in on the healthy home. The healthy home is the next approach to the energy efficiency. Our science has proven over the last 20 years, energy efficiency can be bad for the people living in a home. So we've altered that to increase the efficiency while also providing a better indoor air quality and a healthier place for people to live. So that's our field operations. That's what we're doing in the field now. We train all of this at all levels, including technical training. We love working with contractors like Danny to come out and talk about all the different things that we do, the materials we use, the benefits of the practices that we use today. Remember, it's not always the products, it's the installation, it's one system. So that's what we focus on. We focus on our community. Lake Tahoe is my community. I've lived here since 1970. I've been working in construction since 1974. I went away from the military for 8 years, came back and been a trainer for over 20 years now in construction. So if I can bring anything to the table for this team, I am more than willing to offer my time and my energy at this project.
Thanks so much, Mark. And we'll come back. BPI, another acronym scramble, I think it's Building Performance Institute, right? All right, cool. Georgia, you're going to introduce yourself. And again, quick introductions, everybody, and then we'll come back and dive more into the program details and things we're talking about here.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Georgia White, the Director of the Professional and Applied Technology at Western Nevada College. We recently received an EPA grant, a P2 grant, so pollution prevention. I'll save you that interjection, John. And so we're excited. And then we've collaborated with Mark before on healthy homes. So this is a great opportunity for all of us to work together towards this initiative. Thank you.
Thanks, Georgia. Chris.
My name is Chris McNamara, and I'm here, I guess, as my role in trails and trying to help bring as many trails, bike paths, etc., to the community, both to kind of facilitate traveling without a car, to enhance the recreation, and to really make us a more desirable place for long-term, full-time residents to move to.
Great, thank you. And I'm going to segue then into just diving in a little deeper here. And Hilary, have you introduce yourself in Grid Alternatives, and then maybe talk about the installation basics training program for solar installation that you do at Grid, and just talk a little bit about Grid itself, which is such a fantastic organization. And I just want to cue you up as the first person to kind of go a little further into the topic today, to say that the city of South Lake Tahoe in 2017 committed to a goal of 100% renewable energy. And the more of that is deployed in a distributed local fashion, the more that means distributed local jobs. So especially for local residents. So for example, a considerable amount of solar was installed on the city of South Lake Tahoe airport hangars last year, and they just are in the process of a new project for another megawatt of solar in the city to be installed next year, and I believe they've selected the solar contractor who, and in that request for proposals, they were required to show how they're going to hire a local workforce, and we figure that about a megawatt of solar equal about 25 installer jobs. So we don't have that many people in Tahoe that have that experience. So that's where workforce training comes in, and the partnership we're building with Grid Alternatives and Hilary to provide that training for local folks who might be wanting to get into a clean energy field, or unemployed or underemployed, or just want to get into something that's more meaningful and part of the solution here. You can, join Grid's training program and line up to get those local installer jobs. So, Hilary, with that intro, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, John. So my name is Hilary Tellesen, and I work for North Valley Grid Alternatives. And we are a nonprofit solar installer, and we install solar electric systems on homes exclusively for low-income homeowners or multifamily units that house low-income earners or community organizations that are serving those same populations. We do the installations with volunteers or job trainees. I'm the workforce programs manager, so that means I manage the different ways that people want to engage in our nonprofit organization, whether it be a collegiate group coming out and doing installs because they're curious about design and application, or philanthropic reasons, or our job training program, which is what we're here to talk about today. So as Grid grew its model in 2008 and we had the economic downfall, we found that a lot of people were coming out to do installations and volunteer with us for the specific purpose of learning, those entry-level skills of doing an installation. And we realized that was a way we could better serve our communities. So as John was discussing, how you can have some people in your community that are underemployed, or maybe there's a skills gap in terms of the jobs that are actually there for them. So we realized that if we focused on, folks who really needed work, we got them the training they needed, they were going to be able to, really improve their lives, exponentially. So that was what we started doing. We shifted and changed our mission to include job training in alternative energy fields, specifically in solar installation. So what we have now and what we're working on with the Tahoe Green Jobs program is we developed a 5-week training program, which we've had to modify due to the pandemic. But I want to just kind of go over what that installation basic training program encompasses. We have in a 5-week period, or with the modification as a 4-week period, we have solar installation theory and application combined. So we have classes in basic electrical, the tools that you use, how to read a tape measure, so some kind of like basic construction concepts, and then that like more specific electrical theory, both the wiring and then the infrastructure, how to read a site plan and put in an array layout. But not only do we do that skill specific training, we also combine it with some professional development, kind of team building skills. You know, we do assessments with our trainees about, you know, like, what kind of worker are you, and what are employers looking for? Those soft skills that sometimes people believe are intuitive, but we've come to find that employers are really asking for those to be addressed, you know? So not only do we do those team building exercises and discussions about professionalism in the job site and I want to say character, we also do those more job search specific exercises as well. So we do mock interviews, we do, we update everybody's resume, we make sure they apply to 2 jobs while they're with us. And then at the end, we do what's called a solar showcase. What we found with some of our participants is their strengths are in doing the work, not in selling themselves in an interview or a job fair or whatever. They're actually much more comfortable, you know, on the roof or working with the tools, and that's where their skills shine. And so we kind of flipped the job fair model, where like the employers all have a table and the applicants come to them. Instead, we gave all of our trainees the table so they could be showing how they wire a J-box, you know, showing how they understand, you know, an inverter. They do a mock, on our mock roof, they do an installation, and the employers come and observe the workers, and then they have their resumes and they can see their different stations. And that's the way for us to have our trainees put their best foot forward, rather than have the kind of pressure of selling themselves. So that's, as we've transitioned with the pandemic, and this actually kind of serves our purposes with Tahoe, because our kind of home base is in Sacramento. That's kind of the closest area. We've created a Google Classroom, a distance learning model. So for the first 2 weeks, we have, you know, videos and quizzes and assignments and work that the trainees can do. And then we've kind of concentrated our hands-on portion in a 2-week model. And so that's what we're hoping to do with the Green Jobs program. And yeah, I think I'll just end there.
For people out there watching right now or in the future, if they like want to get employed putting on a megawatt of solar in South Lake Tahoe next year, and love the idea of getting into this field, how will they get a hold of you to figure out how to participate in this program?
You could go to our North Valley website, and it says, you know, how to get involved, and you have to fill out a volunteer application, or they could also email me, which would be htellesen at gridalternatives.org.
And the website is?
North Valley Grid Alternatives. Oh, I should really have that just on hand. I'll link it.
You can just throw that in the chat.
I will.
And I just want to, you know, I'm thinking, Mark, you know, I guess, and Hilary, I'm sure you would agree that the first step when thinking about how much solar to put on is to first make the building as energy efficient as possible, right? So we always think, let's reduce consumption first and then build just as much as we need after we've tightened the place up and made it efficient. So Mark, could you just talk about some of the opportunities you see for energy efficiency jobs here? You know, you and I over the last couple of years, we're talking about utility programs for low income weatherization of workforces that often travel here from 2 hours away or 1 hour away, and not having that local workforce, maybe both in terms of the kind of jobs you could get through your training in those kind of programs, or just, you know, in private residences for that matter, or buildings, kind of the clients that you have and the job opportunities, as well as maybe entrepreneurial opportunities. Could someone get a training and start their own company up here? And just maybe any examples you have as it relates to what you see as possible here in Tahoe to plant some seeds for careers here.
Well, thank you, John. That's really exciting. I just listening to each one of you. I'm guilty of what I'm seeing in the rest of this group, and there's a passion, to see people's lives change, see people get gainful employment, see sustainability happen within our region, and workforce opportunities. Just to be clear about what I'm doing, what we launched here is we've launched the American Institute of Building Science Field Operations. We now have, we're behind about 3,500 units right now to be tested. We're catching up pretty quick. We're landing most of northern Nevada for testing of all new construction, all permitted work. A couple counties are about to turn it over to us completely, and it's important to understand something about that. It's about accountability, like each of us need to have when we're dealing with grants and dealing with people's lives. When I take somebody into training, my focus is on their future, probably more so than their own focus, because all of us know education. We walk in knowing what we think we want to do, and we get there and we go, what is this guy talking about? It can get really spun on them. So we've launched the field operations, and this is coast to coast, and that's why I have my 5 regional directors for training. And those 5 regional directors are going to be the ones with oversight of the management of our field operations coast to coast now. Jobs, yes, lots of jobs. But let's talk about those jobs with regards to what we offer, because what we offer really lines up with what Hilary's talking about. It really lines up with what all of us are trying to achieve. And I'd like to throw one more in there. At WNC back in, I think it was 2001, 2002, through the construction management program, we worked with Bureau of Indian Affairs for wildfire land reclamation projects. I provided all the training and the wildland reclamation out on Indian land to do replanting of seeds. So I have a great understanding of the forestry side and how we can go into big areas of burn and make a clean sweep, you might say, of allowing things to occur. So I have some background there I wanted you guys to know about that are working in that area. Jobs, guys. Let me just lay out how we're looking at jobs. Currently we can start filling vehicles as quick as I can buy vehicles. The vehicles got to come with equipment, and the people in these vehicles got to be more than somebody knows how to press buttons on a cell phone and on a computer we use to do our analysis. They need to understand what they're doing, so they walk into Danny's job. They can help Danny understand why his house is having the issues it's having and what needs to be done to address that. So our jobs approach, and we're beginning that process now, because we start with principles of building science we offer everybody. And that principles of building science is really a measuring stick to see if you have the competency to understand the science that we're about to throw at you. The other one is the healthy homes principles. These 2 are essential if you're going to do any solar work on a house, if you're going to be talking to people about how much solar they need, how much juice their house uses. Everybody falls into using a power bill as the assessment guide of the utilities being used on a home. Yet we got to quit looking at a utility bill and understand that when people are struggling financially, they may not turn on lights. They may not leave the TV on. They may not open and close the fridge as much. They may do some things to reduce their costs that we're not picking up in an assessment of the power bill. So we really need to read the wattage on a house, read the amps on a house, understand exactly what that house is performing and how the people act to live in it. We need to understand if they modified a behavior to afford the living situation that they're in. All these things play part in a healthy home, to include the pitch of the stairs, the height of the stairs, the gap between each stair, concrete. There's so many things that we can throw into jobs, and on these specific, and before I forget this, I want to throw it at you because I'm working on one in Las Vegas right now with Chicanos por la Casa, $1 million funding for energy efficiency and healthy homes in Las Vegas. Everything you guys are doing for South Shore, we can tap these resources I see here are the essential pieces in order to get the dollars that would be allowed to be dumped into the Tahoe region for healthy homes and energy efficiency, and it's $1 million. They want to see what they're going to do with the next $354 million that comes out next year. So I guess I'm rambling, but here's where it's at. There's a lot of money available to do the things that we're doing, maybe beyond the scope of where we've been looking. And all of it goes back to two things: people in their homes and their health and safety. The other part is how we get these jobs done. How Danny can afford to hire guys that have the competency that makes it worthwhile to put them on the job. That's where we come in. We look at the sciences that contractors don't understand, and we make the changes in the curriculum we deliver to people to address the building needs of existing homes and new construction.
Thank you, Mark. That's awesome. And I'm going to pick up there. And we've mentioned Danny a couple times. That's really inspiring. And I know Danny's got a short duration with us here, so I want to make sure we get some words in here. And just as a transition, and I just want to add too that again, there are a lot of utility programs that have money to do energy efficiency. So for anybody that out there, or if it's yourself that wants to get into this field, there's entrepreneurial opportunities to head up those contracting crews, get trained by Mark and his team. And, and as Mark laid out, there's so many opportunities. Everything could be made more efficient. So, and every one of those places that could be made more efficient needs someone to do it, which is a job, which is a new business. And so Danny, we've talked about, we have a housing crisis in Tahoe. I mean, I'd say, I'm running for city council, and then by far the number one thing you hear is a lot of folks are facing eviction, having to move in multiple people in a family. You have a lot of money coming in from folks moving here for remote work from Bay Area or whatever, and that's really putting a squeeze on housing. So there are a couple of solutions that I think you could touch on. One is this idea that we've been talking about, building, if we get it permitted in the basin, which hopefully will soon, accessory dwelling units or tiny homes, cottage units, that kind of, small footprint home that would be affordable to folks, that also provide some second income for maybe a homeowner who hosts that, and crucially, jobs for people to do that. And just another element you could touch on, and Mark, if you want to jump in at some point again on this one too, there's discussion of how do we upgrade vacant second homes here, make them more energy efficient, bring them up to code, remodel them in a way that could be made available for rentals with the right incentive program. But so whichever of those you want to talk about, I know we've been mostly focused on ADU. So Dan, you want to maybe talk about that, the opportunities you see there, if you want to touch on maybe, preview of upcoming attractions with what Kim's going to say in Georgia about the materials you might use from Tahoe forests, as well as the needs that you have for a workforce, to do this.
Well, I think training the next generation of builders is huge, as far as them being aware of the new materials, new techniques, and that's very exciting, because a lot of the people that come to work for us, they don't come with any sort of background. Usually it's just we hire people with either no experience or experience just in traditional techniques in building. So we end up educating or showing people what we do and what's available, and some of the new materials and technology that's changing every year. Luckily, California and maybe Nevada is catching up. I'm not exactly. I think it is, as far as testing buildings. When you're done with a new building, there's a lot of requirements now for testing the efficiency of a building, and a lot of it's actually going to be tied to selling the house too. So realtors will have to be familiar with some of the performance of a house, and it's regulated. So and personally, I'm all for that, and TRPA ups that even more, with regulations on pollution from like fireplaces and such. But so I think that the requirements at the very least for builders are getting every year more and more stringent. So it's sort of forcing the whole industry to perform better, which unfortunately some people don't like regulation, but I think that humans unfortunately kind of need regulations because most of people are oriented towards the bottom line or profits, and I think that I'm preaching to the choir, but generally we all need to think about future generations and what we're leaving behind for them. So for us, our business is huge compared to even last year, because everybody is definitely oriented towards building right now, and a lot of people are remodeling. People have been home with COVID. They're looking at their houses differently, and so going back into homes, like Mark was saying, there are a lot of homes that when you tighten them up, you're almost actually exposing people to more of the toxins that may be brought into the home by buying a new couch or a new carpet. So there's technologies to allow for fresh air in houses, and some of them are quite affordable, but educating people and training the people that can install all that, there's a lot of opportunity on many different levels. So our business is kind of driven towards keeping a lot of our workforce going. So some of our projects are not necessarily sustainably oriented, but having the business allows us to take on projects and hopefully contribute, like in maybe through some of the programs that John is coordinating to develop some of these ADUs programs where people come, local people or whoever moves here and gets trained. Then we harvest local forests, take those trees, mill them up into usable products. I mean, you could just see that everything could be completely encapsulated in our local community. And then we have the workforce to build these units. Then we need people to get the regulations changed so that it fast tracks some of these projects, and it doesn't have to go through so many hoops or red tape, and allows homeowners a little bit more flexibility, because with TRPA and all the regulations, it is tough. It does provide a lot of paperwork and work just to even get to that point of actually being able to build something. So I think that there's a lot of different people that are going to have to be involved in creating an efficient flow of from forest to buildings and then housing, which is a huge need. So I know I think I'm jumping around a lot of different levels.
I just want to pick up on that one point. I mean, 2 points there, and then I'm going to, Georgia, you're going on deck to talk about training up the people that Danny needs, and then we'll come back to Kim on where the wood's coming from, and then Chris, you're going to bring it home. But Frank Cody is in our workforce training application for funding. We put, Frank has proposed with Cody Tree Services to train a handful of people in wood milling. So just wanted to kind of underscore that idea that as we're thinning our forests to make them less prone to catastrophic mega fires, and just doing healthy forest practices that we see all around Tahoe that Kim will talk about, rather than just pile burning all of it, it could come out and be milled into usable siding for homes that you could use into in very locally sourced sustainable wood source for your construction, right?
Oh yeah. I mean that we just milled. I just worked on a remodeled a 1928 cabin here at Zephyr Cove that I'm sitting in, and it had original log siding. And a lot of it had dried out, and I had Cody mill up some replicated, not perfectly replicated, but same, technique, and was able to, keep some of the historic nature of the siding here. A lot of cabins have natural, basically bark siding. And so, yeah, I mean, even right down to the studs and everything on these smaller buildings, you can mill almost everything you need from, from trim to the stud walls, to your rafters, your siding, virtually almost everything you'd need other than, the windows and doors, and you could do flooring, so it's pretty exciting how much you could actually recycle, reuse or reclaim or whatever you want to call it.
I love this full circle notion of people from Tahoe getting paid to in starting businesses to make ourselves less vulnerable to fire, and then using that wood to in turn help meet our housing shortage and need for affordable, sustainable, green housing, just, and doing all elements of that locally. So that to me is really exciting. And Danny, I know that you're on a work site, probably, and if you have to drop off, we're grateful for your taking time out of your in the field work. So whenever you have to go.
My pleasure. Yeah, I do have to get on. I have a meeting coming up, but feel free to post any of my information if people need to get a hold of me for any questions or anything. And look forward to continuing being a part of your group for sure.
Thanks so much, Danny.
Okay, thanks.
So Georgia, so Danny he's got his hands full. Everyone's building and remodeling, but to have that added workforce to be able to do go into new field like building tiny green homes and accessory dwelling units, that's going to take, like I said, additional workers, and we don't have additional workers trained to do that. So could you talk about Western Nevada College's construction program and kind of what we've been talking about in terms of providing a course up here that would focus on that type of construction work?
Sure. This is just exciting to see this tremendous business consumer ecosystem that's taking place, not just at Lake Tahoe, but among everybody, and the awareness. So I have a deep appreciation and thank you for working and putting this together. So Western Nevada College offers opportunities for individuals to learn just a little bit as a non-degree seeking pathway where they would gain their OSHA credentials, some introduction to the construction, very similar to what's been talked about already, and be ready to go learn on the job site. We also offer an associate's degree and a 4-year bachelor's of construction management degree. So there's a wide range of opportunities for individuals who either want to follow the craft part of a construction profession, or those that are interested in the management, supervision, leadership. And we follow NCCER curriculum. That's the National Center for Construction Education and Research. Individuals earn credentials along the way. These are recognized nationally. And sometimes when there's a high demand for workers, the credentials sometimes are pushed aside, but I think they're valuable to show competency in areas, and then it's something that stays with individuals throughout their lifetime. We've adapted to the COVID-19 situation through online education with hands-on labs that comply with all the safety regulations. So we will continue that as long as needed. One aspect I do want to touch on is that we're preparing our students for the future workplace as well as today's workplace. So we're training them with a mindset, or providing the education to develop a mindset of investigating new materials, looking at project management, and then also the consequences of the decision, whether it's materials, location, energy usage, and so on. And then I want to highlight too what Hilary mentioned, this idea of soft skills. That name is such a misnomer because sometimes those are more difficult to achieve and display than are the hard technical skills. So we're looking for career accelerators, and really hope that each student leaves any experience at Western Nevada College with the ability to recognize how they can contribute value to any organization that they work for or with. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgia. And Kim, you got back just in time to talk about, students and holistic education. And I think that's a good segue to you, Kim, to talk about both the work you're involved with at the high school and kind of pathways to these new green jobs, the jobs of the future, jobs of the present, these growing sectors that we need to, address our climate crisis, housing, forest needs, etc., as well as the work you're doing at the community college. So I'm going to pass it to you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So I had mentioned earlier, I'm working with our local high school because we have what's called career and technical education, used to be called vocational. And what we're finding in more of the trade skills where there's a real opportunity to green them, they tend to be lower performing students. They may go to the auto class because they just want to work on their own car, not necessarily pursue a career in it. Or with construction, same thing, hands-on woodworking, academics has been a challenge for them. So in order to diversify who we're attracting and to retain them where they take 2+ courses and actually receive some level of certification that Georgia was talking about, and they can show up with Danny's company and know what they're doing on day one, we're integrating green elements to it. So, for example, they would take a STEAM science class, which STEAM is more hands-on educational approaches, where they'd learn how it is that volcanic or PV cells actually can produce energy, and then do a hands-on project there, but then linking that directly to the vocational side where they walk into the construction class and now they understand what's behind it. And then they figure out how it really operates and then how you actually install it and hook it up to a house. So that's one thing we're going toward. And a lot of it is diversification of the student body pursuing the different fields and getting them to really stick with the career. Certainly pipelines to community colleges. So you're getting good exposure in high school, then you're moving into a community college where you're getting the industry certifications that are recognized nationally, and even moving into a bachelor's degree, what was mentioned earlier. So that's a big piece of it, making these more attractive and getting a diversification of students in there. And then I just wanted to mention the whole biomass piece. So, I mean, in Tahoe alone, we have 1,000+ piles of biomass just sitting and biodegrading. And unfortunately, they are a fuel source for future fires when we don't actually cut and move it out of the forest. There's no market. That's why they're sitting. Even giving it away or paying to have it moved, it's really difficult to make the numbers work. So I really appreciate the work Danny's doing. That tends to be more boutique, where it's smaller scale compared to the volume of wood we have to move. So there's a lot of efforts going on trying to figure out how do we scale up. So for example, there was just California finally adopted the industry rule where you can now use these different biomass as structural wood in high rises. So Portland has had a high rise made out of wood biomass for many years, 18 stories. In California, you can now use it to build a high rise. So that's where you start to really scale up and move the volume, where then you have a market that actually makes a difference for fire prevention and healthy forests. But I think there's a lot of potential in this area. I think for our own community college, the initial forest program will be focused on restoration. How do you plan a project, mark the trees, fulfill the project, all of those pieces. But we could eventually move into product testing, where you're taking the byproduct of your forest thinning and you're turning it into valuable products where it could actually pay its way out of the woods. And then I just wanted to mention, and maybe to bring Chris into this conversation more, I think the housing, like this idea of tiny homes and reusing wood, solar, energy efficiency is great. We also have the opportunity to step back and look at what's going on around the house, whether it be the landscaping, minimal water, no chemicals. Certainly, is it a walkable, bikeable community? You keep stepping out. The work Chris is doing, of course, is related to trail building and even using our trails as alternative transportation, but certainly improving the quality of life. So I think all of those pieces have a lot to do in the same field, and there's a lot of jobs and educational opportunities.
Sounds like a segue to you, Chris. And I want to say that there was a Q&A to someone, Sarah asked, who does Chris work for? She didn't hear that you say that. And I know what your profession is and your role in trail building are not exactly the same thing, but you could just describe that to answer that question, and then share your vision of Tahoe being the outdoor capital of the world and how trails fit in and how you see people being employed in making that vision come to life.
Yeah, my day job is running Outdoor Gear Lab. We employ 16 people locally, and then we also have about 100 independent contractors. And so we're always looking for people who want kind of remote jobs, but that's separate from my passion for trails, which started really just, I want to do what's fun. But then it turned into something different when I understood and started reading the economic studies on what trails can do for a community. The obvious one is helping people get around without cars, which of course is going to become a bigger and bigger issue in Tahoe. But in addition to that, it turns out that when you're trying to build kind of a modern, diversified economy that is not that dependent on, or not over dependent on tourism, that having a really great trail network is what attracts those kind of more modern jobs that can be done anywhere. People are moving, when they move to places like Tahoe, are looking for that lifestyle change where they can raise their families, where their families can get around town really safely, and where they just have a lot of opportunities and don't feel like they're crowded. So kind of all that has come to this passion for trails, and realizing that Tahoe is in a very unique place where we have right now we have an incredible Forest Service, the main landowner in Tahoe, who really is excited to make these things happen. Not all Forest Service districts are like that. We're lucky. And so I see it as kind of a seize the day moment where hopefully that'll last forever. But since we're not sure it will, we should probably do as much as we can now. And in addition to the Forest Service, we have just so many great nonprofits and volunteers in this community. And so all the pieces are there to really get a lot done now. And of course, with that comes jobs. There's the jobs in building the trails, but there's also a lot of jobs in the maintenance of trails, which maintenance is usually not as sexy as building something new, but it turns out that the maintenance is very high on people's minds as far as maintaining the quality. And maintenance often involves volunteers, but if you really want to be kind of world class at it, it involves bringing long-term jobs to a region and really making that a priority. So kind of all those things are kind of why I'm so passionate about trails, and hope that we can really make our community even better in that department.
And you thanks, Chris. That's such an inspiring vision. And Could you just talk about, you've done much of your work kind of with TAMBA, right? And you want to say a little bit about TAMBA and the kind of the trail building they've done? And
I have done a lot of work with TAMBA. TAMBA is the Tahoe Area Mountain Biking Association, although they and I wish they could be renamed into a multi-use trail organization, because really all the trails they build are for everyone. It's not just for mountain bikers. It's for hikers. It's often for horses, sometimes for off-road vehicles. So TAMBA has been just great because they have such a great partnership with the Forest Service, and they are behind a lot of the new trails. But there are other organizations, such as the Rim Trail and the Tahoe Fund, that are also very involved in all this. And so really my role isn't just with TAMBA, it's more trying to see how we can leverage all these great nonprofits with our great Forest Service to make things happen. So for example, right now we're working on a trails master plan for the whole basin. We're about to launch with the Tahoe Fund a trails endowment to hopefully raise enough money to do maintenance on the trails in the basin forever. So kind of all these different things are coming together, all kind of born out of the fact that there is so much opportunity right now. And there's so many examples of other communities that don't have the opportunities we have, that once you become one of those communities where it's hard to build trails, it's really hard to get back on track. So trying to really do as much as we can today.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Chris. I just love your vision. Let's make it happen. So I just kind of want to bring things full circle here, and I give you any, just kind of prompt people with this vision and see if there's anything else that comes to mind of other elements that you're involved with in your work, or that you can think of to help us to really maximize the amount of local green jobs we're creating. But I really think when you add all these things up, it creates a picture of Lake Tahoe being a model, sustainable community for locals and for tourists that models responses to climate change and adaptation to climate change, and things like 100% renewable energy, but in doing that in a way that maximizes the number of people employed locally to deploy that, which really looks like distributed generation on municipal buildings, like we're doing on our own rooftops, on building community solar. The more that that's distributed, the more that benefits local workers in the economy, electricians. We haven't even talked about electrification of all sectors, really starting with transportation. That's another job opportunity. I know the grid, Hilary, is looking into that. Governor Newsom the other day said no more fossil fuel vehicles to be sold in California after 2035. Wow, that's 15 years away. It means a lot of charging infrastructure, a lot of jobs, and a lot of electrician jobs, basically. And then we started imagining, our housing stock. How can it be all energy efficient and solar powered, and constructed from local wood? And how can all of that be built by local workers? And how can we get our students aware of all these opportunities coming up, so they, as Kim was saying, can be part of benefiting from that and starting being entrepreneurial and running businesses doing this. And Georgia, always this shortage of workforce that has been in construction in particular. It was a huge shortage before COVID. There's still lacking in a number of people that have the skills to take advantage of this. So that's just crucial. And again, interweaving with the work you do, Mark, to renovate housing stock. We have this housing crisis. We have a lot of homes that are sitting vacant that, what if you had a big fund to hire people to electricians and plumbers, energy efficiency professionals, to bring them up to code and rent them out? All these things and more create tremendous job opportunities, in my opinion. So if you're thinking just, anything anyone wants to add that maybe you didn't say before, of elements you've seen where we could really, maximize this kind of environmental, green, climate-friendly, sustainable future that really accelerates the number of livable wage jobs that are available to all members of our community. Mark, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, John. I really wanted to touch on the credentialing. So everybody knows how many different credentials. We offer 21 credentials, most delivered within 2 weeks time frame. Our LMS is being loaded with all these. Currently, we're offering all of them on Zoom. But if you go to bpi.org, www.bpi.org, select Certified Professional link, and it will give you the list of the 21 credentials we offer. Each of these credentials within their scheme of housing, multifamily, and commercial, right, all are instant jobs with the certification in hand, with the competency to provide services that the contractors need. So we want that to be available to everybody. But I just want to share vision with you, because I always teach housing history when I teach. And I always teach health, safety, comfort, durability, and efficiency being a byproduct of the system we design. Health and safety being first. Of course, we're Americans, we need our comfort, but then we don't want to spend our money rebuilding what we've already built. And so when we look at health, safety, comfort, durability, and efficiency in that manner, we build a great structure for families to live in a long, healthy life. But the history of homes and where we are today and everything that each person here is bringing to the table is really funny. There's only a couple of us here old enough to remember this term. Remember when the folks said, turn off the damn light, the light bill is too much. See, you guys looking confused. That's because the light bill, electricity only used the lights. And then we got refrigerators that use power. And then we traversed into PlayStation and everything else, microwaves, the whole 9 yards. So we've advanced over many years, a lot in the last 50. But the next 15, John, and what we're going to do in Tahoe and across this country with where people live, how they live in these homes. Remember, we spend 95% of our time indoors. That indoor environment better be the best place on the planet to be. That's all.
I love it, Mark. Great thoughts. And we're coming up like a minute left. Anyone have just an added bit you want to get in there while you can? Or you've said your piece. Okay. Well, thank you, panelists. Such a great discussion, just planting seeds, and hopefully we'll be bringing this home and providing all these workforce training opportunities that we've talked about to Tahoe residents, help people get into new and exciting and lucrative career entrepreneurial opportunities and jobs. And Kim, of course, doing the work to begin that in our high school and then on to community college, and it's all connected as we've seen in many ways. Thanks you everyone for listening in today. Please share this recording later with folks who might be interested in these areas, and anybody who's watching subsequently that wants contact information that doesn't see it in this live chat. We will be happy to connect you with the folks that are on the program today. So again, thank you, and we will see you all down not the road, but down the path, down the trail, right, Chris? So, all right. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.